Hello, in this session we are going to be cutting, pulling, and burning away negative projections from others. So people who cast negativity over your life, people who speak ill will over your name, people who are just very negative creatures and they don't know how to love and instead they vibrate from that lower vibrational frequency of hatred. We're going to be cutting, pulling, and blocking those types of energetic cords out of you and your aura and your life. I'm a Reiki master, I'm a Shamaness, I'm a High Priestess, and I'm so much more. And I have just very high spiritual power to the point where I get targeted for my gifts and my powers, but I'm not going to let this stop me from doing one of my life's purpose gifts. So how do you know that your life is being affected by magic? Just do one more on the side. So people, some of them don't realize that they cast on you. Some of them are very aware. Some of them are aware that something is wrong with them, but they don't get the help or the healing. They don't take the time to do any introspective shadow work, and they don't help themselves, so they just stay in that lower vibrational frequency of hatred, unfortunately, and that's most people these days, unfortunately. So they will try to project or mirror the evil eye onto your life, or project it onto aspects of your life and your career, your relationships, okay? Whether it's relationships with your children, relationships with your significant other, relationships with your friends, your coworkers even. It's really important to keep yourself protected, and it's important to be aware of whose energy, you embody, and whose energy you keep around you, as well as to be aware of who's casting on you, okay? And when I mean casting, I mean there's a lot of people, okay, this has been the new age for like a decade now. There's a lot of people who are baby witches, who are even just starting out right now, okay? And there's people who have been witches in past lives who have continued to, be a witch in this life. And, it is up to the witch. It's in the heart of the witch if they cast, what type of magic they cast. It's in the heart of the witch if you're a witch, or you're a highly evolved spiritual being, or even a goddess incarnate. Okay, if you're spiritual and if you are aware of your gifts, but if you're using them constantly for the downfall and preying on the downfall of somebody, okay, you have to check yourself. You have to check your heart. You have to check your intentions every day, because that karma is something that will affect you if you keep doing this. And I can't stress this enough, to the point where, like, you can feel strong in your gifts because you have like a group of people that are supportive, soul tribe around you now. But, eventually whatever you cast out comes back times 10. It's not even a law of 3. It's a lot more than that, depending on the severity of your curses that you do. That's magnified, that you're putting out into the universe, to off somebody. Or even if you're not even doing like a malefic spell, but you're doing it with your tongue, this is a type of energy, and this is a type of a projection, to the point where, you're casting this energy on somebody else. It's very negative, and then it could go back to you on any part of your life, to every phase of your life, to where it's going to affect you in your finances, your relationship, your material things, or your business, or your car. And trust me when I tell you that if you sit there and you're part of a group and you're just hating on somebody and you're preying on this person's downfall, and all you do is talk about them and talk about them and talk about them, and you're directing this energy at this person, and then you're, hate bonding over this person, and then you're pulling more people into your circle, and then you're telling them things, and, you're projecting more on this person, and you're pulling in, more and more people, to where it's like a narcissistic triangulation, to the point where whatever the reason why you feel the need to project on this person, whether it's, you just don't like them, or maybe you're bullying, because that was a learned behavior, or maybe you have traits of narcissism in you or narcopathism in you, to the point where, you need to kind of check yourself, because don't be the reason why somebody, you know, um, gets anxiety. Don't be the reason why somebody doesn't show up for work. Don't be the reason why somebody skips meals. Don't be an asshole. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people these days, they're really cruel and they're really hostile and they're really like competitive. And, there's so many different personality types and there's so many different energies. But if you're a spiritually awakened being, and if you're a high priestess and you're a psychic like me, and you have this inner lie detector test in your soul, and you could read motives, whether you're claircognizant, clairsentient, clairvoyant, or so on and so forth, and you could read the ill will intentions of others, you're going to embody that. And I've seen a lot of people, they don't necessarily need to, cast an actual like graveyard dirt spell or do a poppet or do hoodoo or voodoo, but I've seen people curse others in groups to where they will do character assassination. They will do baiting. They will do gaslighting. Okay, they will do, you know, love bombing, rage baiting. They will start attacking you in groups. They will start doing narcissistic triangulation, which it stems from a behavior to where you hate this person or you don't like something about them, and then you bully them, and then you pull in others and then put the narrative that you have in your mind, in your perspective of that person into other minds, and then you turn like people against this person. Okay, I've seen people commit suicide over this. It's really sad. I've seen people, and these are learned behaviors, and then sometimes they're personality disorders, to where the individuals who start the narcissist smear campaigns and who start hate, the hate bonding and the narcissistic triangulation abuse, they're very deeply flawed individuals, to where they don't know how to heal. It could be part of a generational curse. It could be part of a mental illness. It could be part of a personality disorder that's went undiagnosed. Or you could know something's wrong with you, but you still continue to harm this person. And then this other person is starting to get affected by your energy. And this person is starting to act out because your energy is affecting them. So they're getting irritable, or they're getting anxious, or they're starting to act out in different behaviors because, it's affecting them. So like, I want you today to be very aware about, how you're coming across to people, the energy that you're putting into the air, into the universe about somebody else. If you are doing something of any type of malicious harm, or if you're doing something, whether it's, an actual like baneful magic working on somebody, okay, I could advocate that, this stuff goes back, okay? So whatever you put into the universe, it could go back on you. It could manifest into something like, okay, you're not usually clumsy, but then things start falling, you start dropping everything, or you total your car, or, you total your car and then you're affected not only in the car crash, but your finances, and you can't get another car, so you're stuck without a car. Or it can manifest into like a stroke or a heart attack, or, someone close to you that like you love passing. These energies are very real, to the point where you have to be very conscious of your thoughts and what you're putting out there. And if you know that something is wrong, go and get the help that you need, instead of projecting your pain onto someone else, because hurt people, okay? I've seen a lot of people lose themselves in this, to where they get affected from something and they don't come back from it, because, they get narcissistic, smear campaign, they get the evil eye, maybe they got bullied in childhood, in school, at work, and then they develop symptoms of, a psychosis, and then they don't come back from this, or they don't get the help that they need, and then they start harming others because, they're not helping themselves heal, and that's where the hurt people come from. So I want you to really be conscious of, the type of thought form energies, your thinking patterns, okay? Next time you remember, you have to focus on yourself, focus on your goals, okay? Next time you have a negative thought about somebody else, shift it to, okay, why do I feel this way? Okay, shift it to setting a goal for yourself and then achieving that goal. You know what I'm saying? You don't always have to go with the negativity, okay? Because it's probably a spirit attachment. It could be a generational curse. Who knows? you could have something on you to where you're cursed, but you need to move forward, okay? Because I'm telling you, when that Dharma hits, it will hit in the next lives. It will. So today, I'm going to be cutting any type of negative cords that have been casted or projected onto you. Okay, because thought form energy is very real. Tongue spells are very real. When you talk about something, you're putting an energy out there with your mouth, your tongue, okay? And then if you are talking about an individual who is very psychic or very spiritually inclined, and then they're picking up on these vibrations, they're going to feel that, okay? And then it's going to be this ping pong energy that like you and your group or your groups have against this individual, to where you hate this person, you all become very malicious to this person, and then this person can then feel it, okay? And then this person has to clear every day, or you try to make things happen with this hate bond, to where like you shut down their career. Okay, so don't be an asshole. Don't be the reason why somebody doesn't have a career just because of your own hatred, because you need to heal something in yourself that has literally nothing to do with them, and you're just projecting your pain onto this person. It's not cool. Okay, so don't be the reason why, if you are like a supervisor and you have a very type A personality and you come across very strong to people who are just, they work underneath you and things like this, kind of be aware, like, okay, like maybe I should learn another technique, or learn how to come across more gentler or more calmer to this person, maybe word my words differently, maybe reshape my thoughts, maybe go see a therapist, whether it's an art therapist, talk therapist, maybe pick up a hobby so you're not taking it out on your worker, okay? Because that affects people, okay? A lot of my clients will come to me and be like, I need a cord cutting because my boss is being really rigorously hard on me and it's wreaking havoc on my mental health, okay? And if you are in a high position like that, okay, and you're putting stress on employees, but like you're doing it to where like you're harming them, and it's affecting them to where they're becoming irritable or anxious, or having symptoms of ADHD, or like, you see this person drastically change in their behavior, or maybe even minor effects at work, to where like maybe they weren't drinking before, but now they go home just to have a drink because they're so stressed the fuck out, and it's like they have to, work to pay bills so they could keep a roof over them and their family's head, but you're making it so stressful for them to the point where they have to drink alcohol now at this point, okay? Sometimes, you can reshape your thoughts, you could heal to whatever, affected you. You don't have to spread the venom or the hatred. And it doesn't have to be like, a supervisor. This is just an example, okay? So, energy is very real. Your thoughts are very real. And if you're unhealed, that poison in you, in your heart, in your body, that you carry, that you harbor inside of your physical vessel, or your mental vessel, your spiritual vessel, you are unknowingly casting upon the person that you're being hostile or that you're hurt. And you have this cord that's connected between the two of you. So instead of spreading this energy back and forth, or instead of spreading this to the next person and hurting somebody, this is why people like me are here. Souls like me are here, to cut the cords, okay? So cutting cords is very important for healing and growth, as well as progressing, okay, and evolving, okay? So I'm going to come back to these, but sometimes if you take a really deep look, you could realize that, okay, maybe you are the problem, maybe, you're the reason why this person does this, or, the things that you could be doing could be affecting this person, And even if you don't like the person or whatever, you could be harming them in some way. You don't have to directly do like a puppet or a voodoo doll or, you know, whatever type of magic the witches do, to where like, you know, some of them, like we'll talk about some baneful magic techniques in another video, but you have to be aware of like how you are affecting people. Like, okay, why is this person like this to me? Maybe it's because, you know, you're negatively affecting them. If maybe it's something that you've said or something that you're doing or something that you're like intentionally doing, to where, you know, that will really affect this person. Okay? For some of you, you will have a toxic bond from a karmic cycle from a past life to like a karmic person that you know, has reincarnated into your life in this life. But when it gets so hostile and so toxic, like one of you should move away from each other, to the point where it's like, if you're able-bodied adult and you're trying to harm somebody's life intentionally, that karma will fully go back to you. It's best sometimes to just leave the situation before it gets really, really bad, you know what I'm saying, and something progressively worse happens. To where like, okay, I've been in a situation to where I've needed help and I needed housing from the state, okay, to the point where like, you know, the state was just fucking lollygagging, and you know, Bill Clinton had signed off on this, it was called AFDC, but that was like before my generation, sort of, like to where like it ended, where you know, it ended pretty much with the Gen Xers, like I think in like the early 90s he signed off on it, to the point where like he sent it away, and then he brought programs like TANF and like SNAP, to where like they didn't help with housing anymore, and like Section 8 was closed down unless you go and join this website, to where only if the website opens up you could put an application in, and if you're lucky enough to be selected, it's almost like a lottery, to where it's pretty much next to impossible to get housing. Okay, but then, you know, you have others who just harbor ill will, and then they'll be able-bodied but they don't want to help themselves get out of the environment, to where they'll make your life a living hell. This becomes a toxic situation, to where these are karmic cycles from previous lives that need to be broken, to where like one person needs to leave, you know, before it gets worse. So like these are like examples that I'm just giving you. So like if you're getting threatened, you know, and if you're getting harmed, or if people are maliciously like intending and plotting on your downfall, it is important to have a support system out of this toxic environment. I've seen this many times, not just in my personal story and situation, but I've seen this from clients, to the point where like the person who is harming them, they think that they have like a valid, you know, justification, reason of why they're harming you. Okay, nobody should be harming you from any type of fucking harm from years ago or lifetimes ago. Okay, this is like what children do. Okay, this is what like mindsets of very immature, emotionally immature, and just like hurt fucking people do, to the point where like, oh, I've seen people who were like 50 never progress past age 19, to where they will be these children in these adult bodies, and they will just keep fucking harming, you know, and that's a type of generational curse, to where like if you're spiritually evolved, you are going to break the cycle. If you are a spiritual curse breaker and you're a generational curse breaker, you're not going to be going around trying to harm others. You know, you're not going to be going around trying to do or say anything to bring a vibration of another soul down, because you are evolved, okay? It's one thing to be an alchemist and to alchemize your light and your darkness, and when to know which. It's one thing to protect yourself, but you're not going to see a high vibrational, evolved spiritual being go around and try to be a detriment to somebody else, just purposely trying to fuck with them. This is what very low vibrational, like parasite spirits, astral predators, astral parasites, energy vampires, andromedans, draconians, archonic, reptilians, alpha reptilians do. Okay, so it's like the spiteful souls, like the more wicked starseeds, to where I've personally known a mixed realm elemental, and this person is a Andromedan and a Draconian, and is a very highly, like, detrimental, like, person, has like a criminal mind, knowing that this person knows that something is wrong with them, but they will not get the help that they need. You know, they will not fucking change, and they will not fucking get the therapy, or, you know, they will not stop the self-medication, and they will not stop the self-afflicting or addicting behaviors, but they will be harming others, and then they will be projecting on these people to the public, like everyone that they know, that that person's a problem, when it's like, okay, take a mirror and look and see why you're affecting this person and why this person doesn't like you, because you're the problem, and you are literally, you know, preying on their downfall, doing these things, doing baneful purposeful things to where you're affecting them, and you know this. And then in your next life, when, you know, you have a life of hell because somebody's fucking with you, it's kind of like, okay, the karma comes, you know? But in this lifetime, if you're conscious and you're aware and you have this level of spiritual awareness and you want to cut these cords, this is why we have this. And I'm going to be putting the names of this in my description box, okay, below. Okay, so this is the very first one. I'm going to make a mental note. And I like to pair this with other ones like this. And like I said, I'm going to put these in the description box below. Okay, to the point where I'm going to be going into your aura, and I'm going to be pulling out the negative mirroring from others. You know, and these energetic projections can be ingrained in your aura, and they look almost like spiritual worms, or like these like noodly parasites, and I'm going to be taking them out. And they come from individuals who are like deeply disturbed, or like, you know, just deeply like flawed in some way, to the point where their whole life's mission is to come and like try to usurp your throne, or wreak havoc on your life, or, you know what I'm saying, try to do some type of harm, whether it's a thought form energy, or turn groups of people against you, or shut your roads down, or whatever. Okay, this is why we go in and we take these malicious energies out daily. It's important to learn how to do this, and it's important to clear and move around the stagnant energy. Okay, so moving around the stagnant energy with this rattle shaker here. And then you also can learn some grounding techniques, to where you go into, hang on you guys, I'm going to be explaining it in 1 minute, or a couple of minutes, because so every day I want you to go and cleanse your sacred space with something like this. And you can get this online, you can get this at your local, I think you can get this on Etsy. You could get this pretty much anywhere. This is very like, it's something that I recommend you putting on the crown, you know, your crown chakra, in your hair, as well as, if you don't have that, you can use things like this to cleanse. Okay, And it's very important to use these, especially if you are an empath, which I feel like is just a really mild way of saying like you sponge people's energies, to where I am an HSP. It's deeper than an empath. I'm more than an empath, to where I have a lie detector in my fucking soul, and I could read people's motives and I could read people's thoughts. I'm telepathic, and it's a lot of shit, to the point where for a long time, for like 37 years of my life, it felt very intrusive. It felt like a curse. So this is why we do the owl rattle and we shake out negative vibrations. And I had a red one like this, but it got stolen, and it was like a bird one. This is an EMF fighter, orgonite fighter, to where it pulls out pollutants from, if your phone glitches, you could put this under your phone, your laptop, near your TV. Also, I just want to say, I just got a great big huge curse off of me, but they hate these, the archons. Okay, so if you don't know about archons, I invite you to watch my other videos that I've done previously on this channel. And I also have 2 channels, okay? So thank you so much for following me and for being a part of my journey, my spiritual journey. And you guys mean a lot to me, to the point where I try to show up every day for you. I've been trying to concentrate on my routine, but this weather has been really just off course lately, and I'm gonna just be clearing this off of you, because the evil eye really spreads, hatred really spreads, hurt people really spread. And sometimes you're the problem, and sometimes you have to realize that, you know, your thoughts and your words and your actions are affecting somebody. And you don't want to be the reason why somebody skips meals. You don't want to be the reason why somebody locks themselves in their room. You don't want to be the reason why somebody has low self-esteem, because, you know, you're fucking negatively affecting them and coming across as an asshole. And I hate to say it like that. But you want to be kind. You know, you never know what somebody's going through in their mental health or in their traumas that they've had, to the point where, like, you have to be kind. And if you're not kind, at least don't be an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Even energetically. To the point where, like, you have to be very conscious of the way you treat people around you. And you have to learn how to heal yourself so you are able to be kind. A lot of mean people don't know how to heal themselves. They are hurt, and then they harbor that hurt, and then it turns into ill will, and it eats at them. And then before you know it, they start engaging in detrimental or dangerous behaviors, whether it's alcoholism, you know, self-sedation, whatever, self-medicating, you know, sex addictions, just any type of addiction. And then, you know, that leads to more and more. And then that leads to more destructive behaviors, and then worse thoughts and negative thoughts. And then before you know it, you're like down here, and you're like, well, just all because like I got hurt. And then you form this like negative way of thinking, to where you start thinking that, like, you know, for instance, like a man who gets his heart broken, he'll think all females are like that because of the one person that he loved. So then he changes, and then he's like a fucking player, and then he plays females with really good hearts because of that one girl who broke his heart. That's not fair. Like, you need to heal, okay? This is just an example. I'm not trying to target anybody, but this is just like an example. So I'm gonna take this around me. You guys, and I got this really negative curse off of me, and I feel really different. I mean, it's good that I got it off of me, Oh, I'm getting used to being myself again. It was a very malicious intent, and it was just on me for since let me think here. I think it started from one group, it was August 2024, and then another group, it was October 31st, 2024, and then another group, it was since 2022, and then another group, it was since 2018. So it was a series of them to where I just came out of it. It was bad. And then I had to perform a clearing on myself. I'm a Reiki master, I'm a spiritual teacher. I also have had several starseed awakenings. I also am a walk-in soul and a targeted individual, to where I'm not going to get in the targeted individual things right now, because that was what the curse really wanted me to label myself as. It wanted me to be in a lack and a scarcity, okay? The people who were preying on my downfall and the different groups that were doing this to me, they would use tongue spells to where they would do character defamation, name, character assassination, hate bonding, rage baiting, emotional abuse, reactive abuse, which is a form of rage baiting. And, they wanted me in scarcity and lack in my finances, in my relationships, even the way that my kids viewed me. And they wanted me, basically fucking dead in the street, to where I beat their attacks. And then when I was done beating them, the divine was I warned them so many times not to mess with you, because you're my spiritual warrior that I've chosen. And now, if they cast more baneful magic and workings on you, whether it's tongue spells or actual rituals or actual witchcraft, I'm not going to allow this to touch you anymore. I'm going to just form it back to them, to the point where when they do a working, a malefic working, or a witchcraft, a voodoo doll, a tongue spell, whatever they wish on you, I'm gonna make it go back to them times 10, because they were harming you for years. And it was just he was I was watching them, and I was okay, are you gonna stop doing this to her? Okay, you're doing this to her again. Okay, you made her go through this, you made her go through this, this. And it was just different groups, to the point where one of them is in prison now. And this is the start of her karma. She did a lot of baneful magic workings on me, to where she lost her Ochun High Priestess status, and she fucking is rotting in prison right now. And she did a lot of magic on me and my third fiance, as well as she recruited 2 other Santeras and a Polero with her to do this magic in 2022. And this is just the start. And this is what I mean when I say I'm ultimately spiritually protected, to the point where I am guarded and protected, and my spiritual realms, my warriors, and my my protectors and my guardians, they really look out for me. And I may look solitary, and I may look independent, and I may look like no one fucks with me, but that's because I prefer to be independent. I don't need to go into groups. I don't need a coven. I don't need any to form to take on anyone else's magic, because I have my own magic and my own powers ingrained in my veins, to the point where I don't need to do all of that, because I've had years and years and centuries and lifetimes of being in this vessel. I am a very ascended magical being, to the point where I know I'm a chosen one. I know I'm a spiritual warrior. Okay, I know what I am. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of spiritually. I know my walk of life is very different, and it's not like regular people's, to the point where if you're a chosen one, if you're a winged warrior, if you are a goddess incarnate, an angelic incarnate, even a fallen angel incarnate, a 7 others, bird phoenix incarnate, a mermaid incarnate, and you have spiritual gifts, and you're chosen for this, and you know that you've beat death, and you've beat death multiple times, and you've looked in the face of adversity and you're still breathing, you know, your gifts and things like this, and like how others try to target your light and try to bring you down and try to make you lose everything, but you're still alive. And then the divine comes to you, and then, like, you know, you're chosen and selected by your own personal guardians, whether it's Aphrodite or Persephone or Bast, Nyx. I can name so many gods and goddesses, to the point where if you know that you're chosen and selected, and you know a whole other world outside of religion, and you know a whole other world outside of, you know, running in groups, you know, running in the matrix and being just like a basic sheep, and you know that you're selected and chosen, and you know, and you've beat like so many attacks, like, you know that your walk of life is different, and you know, and I hate to put you on a pedestal, but it's like, you know that you're more higher ranking spiritually than the groups that have tried to emasculate you or attack you or form against you or just do all of that. You know what I mean? Like, people who try to bring you down, try to turn others against you. And there's a reason why they're doing this, okay? It's not because of you. And unfortunately, I've seen people off themselves because they get targeted and they really need that support for their mental health of in another human. And then they end up, you know, it's so sad, to the point where it's like, okay, well, you embody light, and you embody truth, and you embody alchemy and love, and you are the own goddess and the own god of your life, and others who try to bring you down and criticize you and minimize you and take away who you love or you know, what you do, or try to turn, you know, the way that others see you in their eyes, or the way that you're seen and viewed in the eyes of the public or people who are supposed to love and trust you. It's because you embody spiritual gifts. You know, you're a spiritual warrior. You are different because you have a higher calling, okay? To where, like, people like that, they don't know. Okay, they don't know. They're not you. You embody something that they wish that they've had, or maybe you embody, you know, maybe it's the way somebody loves you, or maybe it's a talent or a gift you have that they don't embody, and then they end up becoming envious, and that envy turns into jealousy, and then that jealousy turns into ruining your life, and then that ruining your life turns into, you know, curses and, like, taking, you know, shutting roads down in your life, but you're still alive. And you're like, how the fuck did I defeat death? How did I defeat all these groups? How the fuck am I still breathing? Like, what the fuck? And then, like, you have, like, spiritual epiphany after spiritual epiphany. You know what I'm saying? And even if you're not having a spiritual awakening, but you beat death, just say you went to the other side, okay? And then you've come back. And then it's like, you know what it's like to be dead for, like, what, 2 minutes, but it seemed like an eternity, you know? And you have your story, or and maybe that caused the spiritual awakening. I mean, every awakening in every individual is different, okay? We all have our stories, but if you're getting targeted for whatever reason, and if you're feeling low, and if you're feeling like, okay, this person's attacking me, like, verbally, this person's attacking my character, and this person is doing this, and this person did that to me, and that, da 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 da. I need you guys to stop and breathe and realize, okay, do not take on that person's energy. They're projecting this onto you, so you are being pulled down to their level. They want to destiny swap you. They want to covet what you have or embody who you are, because they don't have what you have. They don't have the gifts, the talents, the light, the truth, the agility, you know, the ability to manifest, or the power that you have. Okay, there's a reason why these groups are behind you, and the more fucking groups do this to you, the more spiritually gifted or a spiritual genius you are, or talented, or it's something that, you know, you're doing right, to where it's aggravating these people's wicked spirits in them. You know what I'm saying? Do not fucking give up. This is like a channeled message for somebody out there. There's somebody, or there could be more than somebody. It could be like people. If you are getting attacked, I am living, breathing proof that you can beat these attacks. If you have been alienated or isolated, or your character has been assassinated or defamed, and, you know, there's like groups coming up against you, you know that you're a warrior, you're an alchemist, you could be a spiritual goddess or a spiritual god, even if you beat death, okay? Whether it's you pass away and you go to the other side, and then you're able to come back and tell how the other side is, or if you were born with a gift and you tell people about reincarnation and you remember having another life, and then that person, you know, whether they believe you or not, like, you have your own story, your own calling, and you are needed on planet, okay? If you are different, if you are singled out, if you're a black sheep, a misfit, somebody who, you know what I'm saying, has gifts, whether, if you're an artist and you draw, if you're, you know, a guitarist, if you play an instrument, even if you're not spiritually awakened and you're getting targeted, know that you have a purpose on this life. And, you know, if you off yourself, maybe you could use this experience, this hardship that you're going through now, later, to help somebody, to prevent them from offing themselves. So that's why you better stay alive, you know, even if you feel like you can't find it in yourself to keep going. I have clients, they ask me to do cord cuttings and be writing me emails, and they're like, you know, some of them feel really low, like something is wrong, like they, you know, their relationship failed, or, you know, they lost everything, or can you cut these cords, you know, there's a curse on me, I need you to do a cord cutting. And, you know, they'll cash out me for my private one-on-one sessions, and I'll do it for them, and then like a week or even a month or two later, a couple weeks later, they'll be like, oh my god, like, I feel so free, I feel invigorated, like, I don't know what you cut out of me, but you really are a shamaness, a healer. You know, I was able to get, you know, a better career after I got fired from that one, when that person caused me to lose this, or, you know, I'm able to be, you know, getting into a better relationship, or, you know, my mind is getting right after that clearing, like, you've cleared out mental clutter, and I'm able to do like a physical regimen, like a routine every day. Energy is real. This is why we do this, okay? Like shamanesses and Reiki healers and things like this. So this is Smoky Amethyst, and he's here to just pull and cut, and it's like these noodly cords to where, like, they are like gray, and I'm getting them out of your aura. And I'm gonna be kind of cutting and pulling out mental clutter. Excuse me. I'm gonna be getting out mental clutter from your pineal gland and your third eye. I'm just cutting the cord out of you with my, and my son gave me this crystal, lepidolite. He gave me this, and I'm gonna be just kind of taking my arrowhead here and just kind of, okay. So this lepidolite, or lepidolite, however you pronounce it, I'm going to be taking my selenite rod, and I'm gonna be, okay, so I'm latching the, like, that slimy energy that maybe, you know, went into your aura or your pineal gland, your third eye. I'm going to delatch it, so I'm going to detach it from you. Delatch. So I'm gonna be like, you know, they're like, okay, like if you're psychic and if you have, you know, psychic, like, true premonitions or visions, and you're able to see these cords, like, some psychics can see auras, some of them can't see auras, but some of them can see visions and premonitions, some of them can see both, some of them are psychic and they're claircognizance, or they're clairsentience, which is psychic knowing and psychic feeling, and there's just different psychic gifts and different psychic powers, you know. So I could see these cords, and they look like little, like, really, like, slimy, noodly, like, parasite, like, noodles. Some of them are like a medium to light brown, and some of them are like a gray. Some of them are like a charcoal, almost like a black. Some of them are black. But it's like negative projections that, like, other people, it formed to like be an energetic parasite because people were like talking down on your name. So like they created these and they kind of hooked in, like how predators do to prey, you know? And then they like stayed on your aura to where like you were having symptoms of ADHD or irritability, or something changed to where like it wasn't your natural energetic blueprint, and then you started acting out of character or started having symptoms of like, and this is how it starts. So this is why it's important for me to really just pull and cut. It's good to have a friend like me because I don't just have psychic powers, but I'm also a healer. I guess you could say I'm a high priestess. I'm a psychic healer, and I'm not only able to read intentions and be telepathic and have visions and be clairsentient, claircognizant, but I also use my healing abilities when I need to. I exercise my light into the greater good of mankind. This is a huge part of my purpose, is being a healer, okay? This is why I decided to get into energy work, and I used to do angel readings professionally for years before this, and then I read tarot innately, intuitively, which just came naturally to me. Natural to me, excuse me. No one taught me. And then I taught myself how to do like runes, how to read rune stones. And it's just been some of my abilities, you know, because I have a lot of gifts. I have a ton of talents in this life. So where I could be a lyricist, I could write beautiful poems. I could make healing tinctures and balms and candles. You know, you have your gifts too. I could sing. Everyone has a gift. Everyone can also be beautiful in their own way, actually. Okay, so I'm clearing out a lot of these, and I'm gonna just be going into more of your crown. And then I'm gonna be going into your soul star. You know, and sometimes you need to take a day to where like a day of self-care, to where like, you know, you go and you treat yourself to a meal that, you know, it's like a comfort to your soul, or maybe it's a comfort to your digestive system, or maybe it's a comfort to you because, you know, you're on a strict regimen or whatever. And sometimes you need a day, you know, you need to take a day to the point where like you need a mental break. Give yourself that. Don't just keep pushing yourself and going and going and going. This is where you develop the irritability, the psychic drainage. Then that turns into leaks in your aura, and then mismanaged chakras to where they spin counterclockwise, and then you start having health ailments, okay? Because you're not taking care of yourself. And self-care is very important, to where you need a day. Take that day, because it could be saving your life in the long run. A mental health break day, a physical care day, you know, maybe take a break from your exercise routine for one day. Treat yourself to a meal that you normally wouldn't let yourself have. I don't know, if it's 2 days you need, okay, but then, you know, get back on track later. You know what I mean? It's important. Self-care is very important, especially if you are on, I mean, you don't have to be necessarily on a spiritual path, but, you know, even if you're in the matrix, I can't stress this enough. If you're in the matrix and you don't have spiritual gifts, or if you've never had a spiritual awakening, and you're doing your 3 to 11 or your, you know, 9 to 5, and you need a day, or if you're a mother or father and you need a day and you have a support system and you have trusted people who could help you, take the day. okay? Take that day, get that trusted contact to your babies, go for a run, clear your head, take a self-care bath, put, rose petals in an organza bag, put some essential oils in there, and boil some herbs, let them cool, pour it over your head, give yourself like a self-care Olympia bath. You could even hang eucalyptus leaves on your shower. That really helps with, stress and easing sinuses. Lavender, hanging it from your shower head. Eucalyptus is, though, it's amazing. Um, anything that you can do. Lighting a candle with essential oil in it. Maybe if you have an oil warmer, and you pop some really yummy smelling, like, your favorite wax melts on there, okay, to kick back and de-stress. Or maybe you have an oil burner to where, like, you burn oil on it and then it permeates the room. Even if you get a humidifier, whether it's a wet or a dry humidifier, or a day where maybe you don't get to sit in the sauna at the gym, maybe make time to sit in the sauna at the gym. Like, these little self-care, actions that you do for yourself, they could help your mental health, and they could help you not be a detriment to others, because maybe you get so stressed out to where you don't realize that, okay, you are kind of being, mean to somebody else, or they're taking it as you are, and you're not looking at it in your perspective that you are, but they're like more sensitive, and they're like, okay, why are you being so cruel to me? And then you're like, what do you mean? This is how I am all the time. But maybe to that person, it's too much for their energy, to where, like, maybe if you take self-care days more, and then also, like, I can't stress enough, this is what I cannot stress enough: take alone time for yourself, to where you go out in nature. You could take a journal and write down your thoughts, or maybe take a journal, or maybe if you're unhealed and you need to write a letter, just say writing a letter to someone but not giving it to them, and then maybe burning the letter, and then burning that pain and that trauma away, to where, like, you don't give it to that person because you could be spreading the pain back to them or hurting them. But, do something to release, because I'm not talking about anything sexual, so do not, I know a lot of men out there will think this, okay? I'm talking about something purely, like, soul purifying, to where it's holistic and to your soul and your mental health, and, to your spirit, your soul. So, releasing, like, okay, you could even go into the forest and drive to the forest at night, and just scream into the forest or scream into your pillow, but then make sure you sage the pillow, so that energy, because that will re-stick to your crown chakra, and then you'll just poison yourself back with all of that trauma you screamed out. The energy will be in your pillow. Sage the pillow, or take, like, your favorite incense, whether it's patchouli or whatever, and just, and I see patchouli all the time at the store, and I never get it. I should get it, but I prefer, I read that sandalwood was really good for purification, and so I was using some of that a couple weeks ago. Nag Champa, if you want to do meditation, that's a great meditative incense, to break curses and hexes, dragon's blood, frankincense, myrrh, things like this, right? So we want to keep our energies very clear. So I am a healer, and I try to exercise my divine feminine light upon mankind at this point, to where, like, if I catch myself having a low day or a negative thought, I'm like, okay, what is something in me that I need to heal before I project this onto the person that I'm picking an energy up from? And I don't want that venom going back and forth, to where, like, I'll do a cord cutting on myself. I'll go into nature and I will literally, take a day. Okay, I'll do my exercise routine, which the weather's been really fucking with it lately. And, when you get into that exercise routine, you don't have a gym membership, like, you see bikers. I see a lot of bikers, which I think the bikers are pretty cool, because, like, they're able to just fucking go really fast, and, like, I'm sure that is, like, invigorating. Like, get on your bike, go for bicycle rides in nature, like, maybe the pent up energy that you have, You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people do this to where, like, they will hate somebody and they will hate them with a passion, but then they start, like, this new exercise regimen, and it was, like, a mental health thing to the point where, like, instead of projecting all these negative thoughts on the fucking person they hate, they literally just focus and they turn it inward, and then they end up healing themselves through these, like, nature bike rides to where, like, they forget about that person and the hatred for them. You know what I mean? Or, you know, they start balancing their adrenaline, their, you know, their endorphins, so, like, the happy chemicals and things like this, to where, like, you're no longer focused or fixated on the negative energy from the person that you bear animosity for or hostility or whatever. So, like, focusing on yourself and healing yourself, and also if it's very toxic, and, like, just say, like, you see this person, like, needs help or whatever, then it's sometimes it's best to just walk away and just, like, move away permanently and completely, to the point where, like, you know, focusing on your own life and focusing on setting goals and your own, you know, smashing the hell out of those goals, and just because that will follow you to your next lives, you guys. And I cannot stress this enough, to the point where, like, a long time ago, I used to watch these vlogs about, like, children in Malaysia, and they would have to walk, like, fucking miles and miles to school every day, and, like, fucking cross, like, crocodile ponds on, like, these big ass, like, they would have to go up into the sky on a skyline every morning, and them and their siblings were alone and their parents weren't there. Their parents were, like, out trying to work and make just, like, a dime just so they could eat at night, you know what I mean, and have, like, one meal a day, or maybe 2 meals, like breakfast and dinner, because, you know, they'll eat lunch at school. And then these children will have to walk, like, 8 miles to school, 8 miles back, and then they'll have to walk, like, cross, like, you know, wild ass animals like crocodiles and snakes, and, you know, things that they could just, you know, they could fall off the skyline, and some of them do. It's sad, to the point where it's like, people like that, and I hate to say shit like this, but you guys, it's so true. Forgive me. They've acquired this negative karma because in their previous life they were a dick. So this is what I mean, and I hate to say it like this, you guys, but this is the only way I know how to say it. So right now, if, like, you know that you're making somebody's life, like, a living hell and harm, just know that that karma will catch up to you if you're living your best life now and shit like this. But, like, eventually, okay, it'll project back onto you, it'll mirror back on, to where you kind of got to clean up your act and kind of, like, project a kindness. Maybe that person that you're feeling some type of way feels some type of way about you, to where, like, one of you needs to be kind to each other and show each other, like, at least respect, if not love, but just, like, human decency, because you never know what that person could be going through, and then your hatred could ping pong, you know, up against each other. Or, like I said, if you can't do that, then move away. Like, just get the fuck away if you're able-bodied, you know, and you can, if you're able to just, you know, if you have the resources and the support to go and get 1 or 2 jobs to survive on your own, because that animosity and that toxicity, eventually that will go into your health. If not your mental health first, then you'll start self-medicating to try to manage the mental health if you don't heal or go to a therapist, and then it'll start going into your body, to the point where, like, you're gonna start affecting your body and different body parts, to where, like, you're not healthy anymore, and then you have, like, a major health blow. And I've seen this happen because I used to work in the hospitals, to where, like, I've seen the people with the heart attacks and strokes, and, like, the people with the strokes, to where, like, it's sad, because after you have a fucking stroke, this woman, I felt so bad for her. I was 19, and God, my mindset, you know, was so different, because, like, you know, when you get older, you go through so much experience and so many, you know, you mature and you have wisdom and things like this. But when I was young, in that mindset, I just remember seeing this woman, and she had a tick, like, she was like she had a stroke, and it was just really sad, because, like, she, you know, she embodied a lot of negativity from, like, projecting it on, like, you know, her environment, things like this, to the point where, like, she never got the therapy she needed, or she never got, you know, the help she needed. And to the point where like it affected her and her mind because she never cleared. She never did energetic healing. So it's important to clear this energy, okay? So where I'm just going to take my selenite and my smoky quartz, and I am going to, and then I'm going to do it to you too, to the point where okay. Alright, so right now I'm just taking this out. So like if you combine this with a protection crystal, it's going to take it out, okay? And I also want you to know that you can do some rosemary cleansing, okay? So like healing, the best herbs for healing are eucalyptus, mint, and rosemary. So like if you burn rosemary, you know, you heal yourself. You could also hang a rosemary sprig on your shower, or a eucalyptus sprig, or a lavender, you know, and you could really heal your sinuses or heal your stress or whatever, to the point where this is like what I used to do in Davenport. I used to live in a beautiful place named Champions Gate back in 2022, and I had bought this huge like rosemary sprigs, and then I bought this huge eucalyptus, and I hung it on my ex-fiance's, at the time we were together, shower, to the point where every time like the steam came from the shower, he was having sinus issues, and then it would heal him, to where like he knew I was a healer. I was not a high priestess then yet. My high priestess came 2024, okay? I studied the whole time from 2022 all the way to 2024 to get my high priestess, okay? So where in my next video, I'm going to be telling you a true life story about my Babble Out ex, who tried to give me a false priestess over my head, and I knew which priestess really was over my head. And this is going to be the next video, you guys. I love you. Subscribe. Make a donation for energy exchange. And if you need a service to cut cords, I am your shamaness. I am your healer. I can do hand movements, Reiki ASMR. Right now, I'm just not making balms, tinctures, sprays, or candles, or elixirs. I can do this too, but that's for a little bit later in my crone era, to where like I kind of entered my crone era like soulfully, spiritually, and this is why I look very youthful, because my, you know, the higher spiritually ascended you are, the younger you look in your skin. This is just, you know, goddess incarnate here. So if you need any type of, you know, reading, I can do this. I can do clearings, I can do cord cuttings, I could do Reiki, you know, ASMR, hand movements. I'm a Usai Reiki master teacher 2019 and a fire Reiki healer. So if you guys need anything, I'm going to do a little cord cutting to the point where I will, you know, just email me, but make sure it's a serious inquiry and not anything about the way my body looks, because I won't be responding to, okay, I'm very hot-blooded. I'm so spiritually ascended, to where like I live in Florida, so like hot, to where like I have to wear bikinis because I'm hot constantly all the fucking time. Like today, this would be cool for a lot of people, but for me, it's like, okay, it still could be colder for some reason. Anyways, if you need the cord cutting, if you need the Reiki healing, to where let's go ahead and finish up with a Reiki. So I'm going to do some Usai Reiki on you guys. Fire Reiki, I'm sorry. now I'll do the Usai Reiki. I personally like the fire Reiki, because I feel like it's more effective. That's just for me. But since I'm attuned to this as well, I will be doing this. And then I'm going to do some Chokurei in you. And then I'm going to do, let me do the Seikei. And then I'm going to do the very extensive one. And like my, at the time, client, she actually was a Reiki healer, and I was doing readings. And her and the World Metaphysical Association, I studied and I got attuned. She attuned me to Usai Reiki in 2019. So I'm going to be cutting malicious cords though, because there's a lot of maliciousness that I'm feeling. So I'm going to be cutting these cords, okay? And like, if you're like a malicious being, or like if you hold any type of ill will or jealousy or envy or a secret competition or ill will motives to people, my inner lie detector can pick this up. And it used to feel like a curse for years, but then I started to know how to do protective techniques around my aura and things like this. And I'm gonna take actually, you know what, I'm cleansing some because somebody put powders on my desk and I had to cleanse this shit. I was gonna use the desert rose, but it's cleansing right now. Either that or it's in here. Hold on. And then I got gaslit, or she tried to gaslight me and blame my incenses for powders being dropped on my shit, but I knew better. Like, no, it's not my incense powders. So anyways, just getting these noodly cords, you guys, out from you. And then if you need a personal session, I'm gonna leave my email. Hang on. These come in really handy when you need to empty things out. And you guys, I think I accidentally bought all the freaking ground sage from my freaking neighborhood market, to the point where like I had to start getting this kind. So where recently somebody tried to do a destiny swapping on me, another person tried to do a glamour on me, and then someone tried to project a obesity on me, and I was like, no, motherfuckers. So I have to clear daily, you know what I mean? And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you how to do this too. And you can just reject the energy to where like, I'll teach you Because you don't have to take it, you guys. And you probably were just never taught how to protect yourself energetically and spiritually, but this is why I'm here. So in my next session, I will teach you to where I feel like the weather, it's giving like, okay, take a step back, have a comfort meal, which I did yesterday. Today is not the comfort meal day for me, but I did yesterday. Even though I skipped the meat, I didn't fully give myself the comfort, but I did give myself some carbs yesterday. To the point where, like, you know, that was a treat for me, having some fried rice with my vegetables, because I don't eat rice every day, or I don't even let myself eat pancakes or pasta anymore. But, you know, yesterday I ate some fried rice and I feel good today. Yeah, you know, it looks like I'm a little thicker, but I feel good. You know, and then it's like tomorrow or the next day when the sun comes out, I'll go and work it off. Like, you know, you gotta take, you know, the unbalance with the balance. Like, when it comes, it comes. When you have time, when the weather gives, to where, like, you know, you get back in the routine again. You know, I was depriving myself because I was, you know, getting affected by a lot of energy vampires, a lot of their malicious intents for me. Attacked. Somebody had told me that I deserved to be in a plaza, and that was my karma, and that basically she wanted me to be there, you know? And it was somebody who I looked up to, and it really deeply hurt me, and it affected me to the point where I was like, okay, well, if that's how you feel, I am going to just do what I can control, and I'm going to fucking do an exercise regimen because this is what I can control right now. So we're like, okay, you made me have that happen. You know, you took this away from me, but it was like she was playing God. To where, like, she didn't have a right to. You know what I mean? But this is why I cut also and I clear, because it's important to cut and clear their negativity projections to the point where, like, and they want to hurt you. You know, the people who are envious of you and who want your talents and gifts, or think that, you know, they're insecure because they think that your talents and gifts make you on another level than them, and so then they start bringing you down. You know, and then you subconsciously let it hurt you or get to you to the point where, you know, you fucking start doing things out of character to kind of like numb your mind away from the pain. So where it's, a lot of us do this shit, okay? A lot of us do this shit to where, like, you self-medicate, you start fucking vaping, you start fucking, I don't know, taking whatever substance you can because you're fucking hurt. Somebody hurt you. I get it. But it's also important to get off the self-medicating and to get into some sort of therapeutic practice that you do, even if it's not talk therapy, because I understand, like, every person is different. Talk therapy cannot work for everyone, you know, I understand that. But if you do something every day to the point where, like, okay, you can get a yoga mat and start doing yoga, you could start doing cycling, or what is it called, spinning, or you can do bicycle rides, or you can, you know, journal, do you know, boil the oil, right, like in the hot oil thing, to the point where, like, you know, that energy of that specific oil from the flowers, or, you know, like lavender, could bring you serenity. You know, it could bring you peace. A lot of people who hurt people and who are damaging themselves with self-medicating, they don't realize that, okay, there's holistic practices that they can do, that they don't have to hurt a body part. Okay, so, like, you don't have to necessarily vape or smoke cigarettes or whatever. You can do something more holistic. And I'll get into this in my next series of videos, because I have a lot to teach in my spirituality. I have a lot of wisdom and, you know, goddess incarnate gifts, because with pain comes wisdom and ascension, right? So, like, and I had to go through the more difficult walks of life so I could teach. You know, if you don't if you don't go through certain situations, you don't grow, and you don't learn, and you don't gain the wisdom and the knowledge that come from after the pain, to the point where, like, I've already accepted it. You know what I mean? To the point where it's just like, okay, well, now I'm going to use my gifts and my light for the greater good, and I'm going to teach. Maybe it could help you from getting hurt, so you don't have to go through such a traumatic experience, to the point where something that I say, and then you get into a situation, and then you remember oh my gosh, she said that to me, that goddess incarnate on YouTube. I remember this. So I'm going to do this instead of doing that. And maybe I could save you from yourself, you know, or save you from a situation to the point where, like, you don't have to go through the trauma that I had to go through to gain this knowledge and, you know, this. So this is why I do this, you know. So if you don't have ground sage, if you don't have a sage bundle, if you don't have blue sage, mountain sage, black sage, do the rubbed, because the rubbed is, it'll work just as good as white sage. So I'm just gonna do a couple more cord cuttings on you guys, because I feel like a lot of the collective is, and I mean, you feel this in the workplace, you feel this when you go out, and depending on the energetic imprint of your city, it really depends where you are in the world as well. And if you are not happy in the city or the town that you are in, that's going to play a huge role on your mental health, your outlook, the people that you interact with every day, and your environment, you know, in your direct environment, as well as your energetic and spiritual environments, okay? So where you have to get to that happy place. So we're just going to shake out negative energy again with the Shaman Owl Shaker. And like I said, I had a red one like this, and that one was my favorite, and this one was my son's favorite, and that one got stolen. So I'm going to take it behind me on my base chakra, and I have some really good content coming for just a lot of spiritual awakening things that I have went through personally, besides hexes and curses, like kundalini awakenings, divine feminine awakenings, and specific awakenings spiritually. We're going to get out negative imprints that were mirrored onto you. Getting out negative imprints of you is very important spiritually and energetically, because if you don't clear out the negative energy, like I said, it could produce a, you know, counterclockwise, dimmer chakra to where your health gets affected, or, you know, a projection from like a parasitic leech, like a energetic intruder or an astral parasite, if you will, to the point where they get into your psyche, and then they start, you know, creating this mass effect of negative thoughts for you, or irritability, or insomnia. Okay, a lot of people who get attacked by black magic, they have specific things like to where like their sleeping patterns change, and you know, they're not able to sleep anymore, or, you know, they eat different, and then it's like they start having like, you know, constipation and fucking just like shit happen to them, to the point where like, you know, sometimes you gotta let go of the bacon or the steak, to the point where like, you know, you have to kind of just like, you know, don't eat the bagel, don't eat the steak. Like, this is just like throwing stuff out there, like don't eat the noodles in those soup, because these things you could really be healing, and I'll teach you about foods that will heal your chakras as well, in my next videos, okay? One time when I was young, I went to this, she was a reader, but she was a witch. This is when I was really young. And she made me these chakra oils, like before I came fully into my gifts. And I remember taking these chakra oils and like rinsing them down. Like, she told me specific directions at the time, and she was so gifted to like how to rinse myself and cleanse myself in the shower. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I remember after I used these chakra washes and oils. I don't know if I think they were whether oils or washes. I was supposed to go back for the next phase, but it cleansed my aura so much that like it made me manifest so much to the point where I know where she is, but her husband and her daughter started doing it, and I don't think she does it anymore. And then something happens because she was such a healer, and like she got like attacked or whatever. But then I think they like somebody like ran into her shop with the car. It was really bad years later. And then now I think she's open again, but I don't know what she put in those oils, but she was so gifted to the point where like I remember being in like the best relationship like at the time. This was like years and years and years back, to the point where like if I would have went back for that third phase or that second phase of oils, to which they were expensive. I mean, I paid a pretty penny back then for them. I probably would have cleansed from a lot of past life karmic negative like spiritual worm parasite cycles, like karmic cycles, energy vampires, to the point where I probably would have been married by now and I would have been out of the situation. But I just didn't at the time. I was in scarcity and lack to where I could only afford one phase, which is what energy vampires do. Okay, and I've talked about them in a lot of my videos, to the point where like they will energetically intrude on your environment, and then they will try to start to spiritually worm and astral project, you know, these astral parasites into your life, to where it shuts down each of your roads in specific aspects of your money, your love, your health. That's why it's important to do energy work and to have a healer like me come in and cut these projections, because you could just be living your life and just everything would be flowing, and then all of a sudden you have car trouble. Boom, there goes your car. Then your insurance doesn't give you enough to cover a new car, right? And then so you don't have a car, or like you don't have insurance or something, or you know, you don't find someone to spot you, you know, you don't have a supportive like, or maybe you do have a support but they're cheap and they don't want to help you, you know what I mean? Like you never know. Like people can just be fucking going through shit, and everybody's different. So like if shit like this happens to where like things flow, and then all of a sudden, you know, things are going right, and then all of a sudden like one little glitch and then it goes left, and then you're just like, oh, I had a day, like somebody's casting on you. This is why I go in, and it's good to have someone like me in your corner, because I'm able to remove this energetic gunk and these energetic spiritual curses, because they are spiritual curses and they have an effect. They start having an effect on you. That's why it's important to clear and to cut. Okay? So releasing yourself from, you know, toxic karmic cycles is very important and detrimental to your mental health and your spiritual hygiene, to the point where sometimes it's just better to let go instead of fight, because if you fight, it's producing negative karma for your next up and coming lives that you are not going to want to deal with. So that's why letting go is important. And I'm not saying like you have to forgive something or somebody or a situation, but letting go is important, to the point where you don't get revenge on them. You let karma handle it.